All right, everybody, welcome. We're going to get into this. We're going to watch a little bit of some Soul So Breezy. He's got some information here that new hidden transmog options, and then there's a Q&A, which I believe I've already seen, and it was off of some kind of business channel. It's kind of, I wonder if they're going to go over it in this, because it was along the lines of how she envisions the future of World of Warcraft. So let's get into this a little bit.
Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, back from another successful round of visits full of surprises and spectacle and wonder and horror and one death. Just one. You can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catching me where I'm live. We first got to talk about the most important thing coming out of the upcoming 12.0.5 patch, and that is the transmog option to have our weapons sit either on our hip or on the back, or even hide them completely while sheathed.
Oh, okay.
It's a feature folks have been asking for since the Bush administration, and inside the Cantina is a spot where we can hang our weapons up, and that brought this topic back up again. I'll explain how it works, and it's pretty easy. From the transmog menu, select your weapon and whatever transmog you're changing it to, and you can see a series of options towards the bottom there. Eligible weapons that can swap between the back or hip include all one-handers except for fist weapons, which continue to always hide, but you can mess around with the offhand frills casters use. Unfortunately, sorry, you won't be able to have two-handers or guns on the hip. As for hiding weapons, it's open season, so while weapons are tucked away, you can now opt to hide them. Changing the orientation or visibility.
That should really help with the clipping issue that everybody has from time to time with their various bags and backpacks and things like that. I think that would definitely help.
While sheathed, it doesn't cost any gold, unless of course you change the weapon's appearance. And this mostly works with situations too. For example, we can make a housing outfit that includes switching to weapons that sit differently or hide while sheathed. Then when you leave the house, you switch to your more active default outfit. While we're in the situation menu, a few more conditions are being added, including weather effects and the time of day to manipulate your outfit. Both are interesting, but especially the weather tracking, because it means weather does in fact affect the game, at least cosmetically. The race to world first continues as of this recording, and at this point, it's kind of hard to tell how—
It's over. It's over. This is old news. Liquid won it for the fourth time in a row.
Different it looks compared to previous races.
They got to a secret phase. And I heard some of the players, when they beat Laura, they got up and they were going to start celebrating and had to be called back because of the secret phase.
With the creation and use of cutting-edge add-ons that reportedly might not be shared with the rest of the community after this race is over. It sends pretty confusing messages over how successful Blizzard was about disabling these computational add-ons, but also it shows how determined top gamers are to get any edge they can, given that they have limited attempts at gear and, more importantly, the urgency of wanting to be first. Meanwhile, most of the rest of us will be counting on timed nerfs that we know will happen in a few weeks, as well as the turbo boost-like mechanics that are going to start coming in the next patch.
Yeah, there's definitely, everybody knows it. If you've watched and you've been around the game long enough, you know that every time the race to world first ends, then they start nerfing bosses so that the rest of the community can get in there and start doing them. But it definitely should make it a little bit easier. I believe there's already some released as of today, being Tuesday the 7th of April. So I'll probably do a video for that if you don't know anything about that as well.
Will that kind of cancel out add-ons? Not sure. Seeing the continued use of these kinds of add-ons though, it's not a good look, and I'm curious to see how Blizzard either doubles down on their efforts at restrictions, or lets us go back to a world of playing the UI instead of the game, to be so blunt. I mean, like at my level, I don't need any of that stuff. I'm actually those who are like, okay, maybe the game doesn't need to be catered around the 0.1%. On Monday, we were treated with a Q&A with—
See, but we've been saying that, and I don't think that Blizzard is tuning the game any longer for the 1%. I believe for the most part, we have a game that is for everybody. And that's why you have so much discourse when it comes to everyone speaking about how easy the game is. Because right now, the current situation is add-ons are about as removed as they can be for the moment. And Blizzard is trying to integrate their UI and their weak aura, or they're trying to put everything in the game so that you don't need you don't have to be dependent on them, is what I'm trying to say. As dependent as you were back in what 2019. You know what I'm saying? So it's supposed to be different. They're going to be going forward, and I'm sure every season maybe that goes on, they'll have more and more. It's a huge pie when it comes to add-ons and weak auras that they have to try and cover, and that's not something that's going to happen overnight. And for anyone that thinks that, you're being totally unreasonable, really, because the developers have a lot already to do. And even though Blizzard, I think, jumped the gun on trying to say they're taking away all of the weak auras and add-ons, and then turned around and gave some of them back, and the ability to have some of them, I think, you gotta credit them for trying at least to put anything and everything off of the shelf into the game. So you don't need to spend an hour or 2 hours asking people who already play the game what week or add-on are you using to make the game playable. So it's definitely something there that they're going to have to move forward with, and we just have to be patient.
WoW boss Holly Longdale in the WoW Portal Room. It's the official Discord channel of World of Warcraft. And it was pretty easy to miss. The announcement was made inside the channel, and questions were taken from the community Discord channels who serve as the WoW ambassadors. They took in questions and they cleaned them up a bit to present to Holly in like a 40 or so minute back and forth. So the announcement and the hype around it, it was very filtered. You need to pay attention to that channel or wait for sites like Wowhead to share the news and the breakdowns and so on and so forth. The vibe walking into this Q&A, it felt very safe in so few words. Holly is the executive producer of World of Warcraft, but she's not like waist deep in the day-to-day discourse like WoW's game directors. So it's not surprising we didn't learn very specific information on fixing our class or why this or that character isn't in the spotlight. But here's what—
You know what? And no matter what, they never do that to anybody. Blizzard has a very tight run ship when it comes to any of these content creators going to ask questions to the developers. I'm sure they get them in advance, and they tell them what they can and can't ask. It's not something like they're shooting from the hip. I'm pretty sure they've been given plenty of notice of what's okay and not okay to ask.
we did learn, and I'm gonna color it with my usual commentary. They're determined to firmly ground World of Warcraft as a so-called third place. That's a term used to describe usually physical spaces where we go to between our first place, which is home, and our second place, which is work, although that's sometimes home. Think of like hangout spots or daily rituals or places to socialize, celebrate our hobbies, and play games. In the times before social media and Discord channels, we logged onto WoW to connect with WoW friends, often through like guilds and server communities and trade chat. 20 or so years later, though, the internet is a very different place where connectivity is more or less ubiquitous, where we have presence in any number of spaces all at once, but our attention is not so evenly split. WoW is trying to be a solid but a complementary way of staying connected to other people. Like, we can go onto social media or these programs and say like, hey, I got this cool achievement, or we can ask for help. Maybe I got a bitch about something while building my house, and I can share my progress via screenshots that friends can see on their phones and social media and so on and so forth. In fact, Holly sounded almost exasperated as she pointed out that World of Warcraft's in-game social systems, as in like the guilds and communities, that they're in dire need of improvement. It's kind of a signal for us to sharpen our pitchforks and very loudly share what we at least think will make the game better on that front.
And that right there, it's kind of ironic that they're bringing that was brought up, because I saw that in a post today of somebody that has come back to the game, and they're trying to find friends and asking. So they joined a guild, is what they did, and they noticed that there aren't a lot of people that are talking in their guild. And when I looked down in the comments, people were pointing out, if you want to talk, most of that talking is going on in trade chat. Somebody mentioned maybe you should reach out to your guild master for some kind of guild event so that you can all get together. But it's funny that these forums are speaking on this in Facebook posts in a way, because it's definitely not someplace you would think they would carry on discourse about the actual idea of World of Warcraft. I guess they do it everywhere, right? But when I'm referring to, you know, grown adults who for the most part are all posting their own real names and they're out there having actual conversation, they want to try and have a community, and they understand, at least some of the people that were in the content, in the comments, that the game is no longer there. Discord has moved, a lot of people away from talking so forth in chat, as opposed to talking in Discord, and a lot of trying to make friends is harder than it was back in 2004 through 2008. So it's a different game. It's evolved into a different, you know, social hierarchy, if you will. It's not the same. So how do you get that back? And I think that's what they're trying to do with the housing. And that's one of the things that I remember. Holly is very, if I understand correctly, she's very involved with the whole housing. This is kind of like her her baby. She really wants to see the game go in a different direction away from just being Warcraft. Even though she said that Metzen was the one that says, "I wish we didn't call it World of Warcraft." She really wants it to be more of a Sims, in my opinion. She wants it to be more of a everyday come here and water your plants type of place and talk to your neighbor. And so that'll be for maybe that kind of that kind of player base that wants that. I don't know.
While it's not off the table, the team seems reluctant at modernizing all the old legacy systems to be more aligned with how World of Warcraft is today. Both the question and the answer were kind of vague sounding, so I'll try to share my understanding here. The likes of warbands, for example, and updating warbands to share the past reputations that we've earned, that still seems to be an ongoing thing. It's not going as fast as they like, but it's an ongoing thing. But the question seems aimed at taking these old reputations and legacy systems to make them more accessible or soloable, in fact. My opinion, I think they want to avoid a situation where we can earn like the insane title in the WoW Classic Remix, or be able to buy Battle for Azeroth honor marks, or whatever they're called, with just gold. I think a good example of modernizing would be like Warfronts. Lots of folks, myself included, would be pretty cool with making it, for the most part, solo queuable. An alternate idea, though, would be to make it like into a holiday event, like maybe for 1 week out of however many weeks, we can all freely queue up for Warfronts without any restrictions, and that'll now scale to our level. And then when we do that event, we get some like transmog pieces that came from the event, we get some Voidlight Marl and gold, and maybe current crests at the end of it. I think some folks are piggybacking this question or this discussion, and they're looking to mostly dismantle past exclusives like Ahead of the Curve mounts and Mage Tower appearances, that sort of thing, which historically the team has resisted. So I think that's why Holly didn't want to take on such an open question. It certainly sounds.
Yeah, I don't see everybody being able to get everything. They want to keep some of the exclusivity into the game, the uniqueness of titles, because people, they you can never pick right. If you say okay, you're gonna have the people that actually did the work, get those items. They're gonna be pissed. They don't want anybody to have them because they earned them the hard way. You have others that say, I don't care, I don't give a shit. Let them do whatever the hell they want. I got mine, so let them get theirs if they want. You know, because it really is on the person that did the journey that got it, and they could always bitch about it and put an asterisk next to whoever's. Yeah, they got it after. They did it the easy way, but in the end, you still have yours. Whatever I don't know. I don't care. Quite honestly, I don't care. Like So Breezy, he sounds more of like a very casual player, if you will, who's into the whole, like, if you watch my video from yesterday about the whole, you're one of the three players, right? And you're one of the players that likes to collect your transmog and your achievements, and that's where you land, and that's fine because that's what you get to play the game how you like. I don't pay your sub. You get to play it how you like.
Like they want to make a housing roadmap, which got me excited and also nervous at the same time. Because if it comes out, and I do hope it does, it is 100% going to be a mixed bag of excitement and, of course, disappointment. Because even if they were to lay out a year-long plan that includes like a ton of stuff, that's cool, but gamers want like 50 tons of stuff all at the same time, immediately and yesterday. Holly was also asked a certain question about what she'd like to see in World of Warcraft if she didn't have to worry about dev time and, other practical limitations. Now, most of this answer revolved around customization, from like more barbershop options to new emotes, and hey, it would be awesome to deliver a level of presentation or personalization not unlike housing. To be clear, this was just a wish list and wasn't meant to be really taken seriously, but with the way word of mouth passes along, a lot of folks, of course, took her answers and called them promises or teasers of what's coming. So it's important to kind of throw a wet towel on this whole thing and say these are more like concepts of a plan. Another example, she asked folks in chat what they think about playing World of Warcraft with a controller. Unsurprisingly,
I did see that. As a matter of fact, if this sounds kind of like this might have been from that, but the date isn't really matching up. But she's asked that question before. How would you feel about being able to play WoW on a controller? So that leads me to believe that she hasn't really came too far. If this is a separate video or just talking point, they're looking at it. They're looking at trying to make WoW playable on a controller. And for that, like I say all the time, Final Fantasy 14 is playable on a controller. Do they have as many buttons? I think they probably do. Do they have same kind of sophistication? You know what? I think they definitely do. But the point is, if you want it on a keyboard, you have the option. If you want it on a controller, you have the option,
the response was a resounding yes, though she also pointed out,
yeah, look at that. Yes. So this must have been a stream somewhere. Okay.
That's scale at which to deliver something, a feature like this. It's several orders of magnitude above what add-ons like.
How many of us hardcore players? I'm not hardcore. I jest. But how many people would like to play WoW on a controller? If you're watching this video and you do a lot of Mythic Plus, would you like to do that with a controller instead of using a keyboard? I wonder. Let me know down in the comments. Say something.
Like console ports can do. And it's not just gameplay that needs to be addressed, but also things like menu navigation and chat. Like a lot of the game would need to be rebuilt to deliver the World of Warcraft experience on a controller the moment you log in to the moment you log out.
Well, don't they already have a port for you to do that? Some kind of access using a controller? I'm pretty sure they do, but maybe it's not all worked out and you still have to do certain things. But I think what he's saying is, you get the game, you could plug in a controller right away.
Overall, I did enjoy what we got from this, and I think the Portal Room channel is a success so far. It's got a good formula as, of course, an official channel. Large chunks of it are being moderated by members of larger communities, whose presence is also a way to elevate their own channels. The result is this very curated space with lots of good and healthy energy and invites anyone to join and share feedback. In my opinion, it was much more effective than the community council was.
Yeah.
And if you want to visit,
whatever happened to the community council? You never heard anything about that. And I remember when they instituted it, that was back around the whole Shadowlands debacle. After that, never heard anything out of that.
Channel is in the video description. That's the show, but I wanted to gush a bit over the bridge scenario made available to round out the campaign quest we got from this week. It felt like a ton of fun, and I'm comparing this to the midnight opening sequence, with all the who's who of the light showing up to beat back the void. Now this time we got exactly what Chris Metzen hinted at all the way back during the War Within and the World Soul Saga reveal, this unification of the Elven people. It felt really, really good, fighting side by side with storied NPCs and mowing down hordes of mobs with, like, these super abilities. I didn't record the very start of it, but the scenario opens up with a big flyover of the Darkwell leading back to this display of, like, all these elves and elves and elves and finally back to us. It gave me this old school RTS vibe, like the scene was about to shift from the cutscene to me quickly throwing down farms and telling peons to start gathering gold and lumber. But this made me think of the chatter earlier this week, where a lot of folks I heard, they were griping over, hey, where's the horde at? How come they're not showing up?
Which we were just talking about that yesterday in the video. Uh, yeah, where's Thrall? You know, where's all the, I play a horde blood elf, so where's all my guys? Where's all my council?
But at least what I played through was all this buildup from the zone storylines in Midnight, followed by this really epic battle with Silvermoon City as the spear. Now, hopefully, at some point, the regular Horde and Alliance folk that were still on that beach will wrap up what's going on in Kazalgar, hopefully in time for the Last Titan. But today, at least, I think we got a pretty sweet Silvermoon story. Let's give a hearty thanks to the folks on Twitch and YouTube for keeping us company, and a massive thank you to the folks at the Cozy Cube for letting me take a really close look at their places. I'm looking forward to reaching out to more.
There you go. That'll be interesting. You know what I want to see more of? I want to see more story. I want to see more story. I don't know why we don't have the story yet. What is all that shit? So the moment that comes into play, because that video that we watched yesterday, that should be out tomorrow, and that goes over some of the story and some of the plot holes that we think we're seeing. So if you enjoyed the content, consider hitting that smashing that like button and subscribing. I should be putting out more videos more often, some free React content. I'll be also trying to do some original content. I'm starting to learn how to edit. So until next time, keep calm, keep your head on a swivel, and be good to one another. I'll see you all later.